Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the season finale of the Talking Sports series, produced by 11 Sports in partnership with the World Football Forum. To cap off our first season, it's a pleasure to welcome a face most of you will know. The man is Andrea Radrizzani, renowned sports investor, entrepreneur, chairman. Andrea has been in the forefront of the sports and media industry for the last 20 years, even though, as you can see, he's still very young indeed. He's the owner of the sports media and entertainment investment platform Azer Ventures, Leeds United Football Club, and also the 11 Sports Network. We'll be discussing Andrea's career progression, his milestones, his achievements, and also about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the sports industry overall. Andrea, I could keep on going for a while here on your introduction, but I'll stop it short because we've got plenty to talk about and you'll have a chance to discuss everything that you've been able to accomplish throughout your career. First of all, welcome. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Obrigado, Pedro. Thank you. And hello to everybody that is connected with us today.
Yeah, this Talking Sports series has been a success series of webinars during this tough time for the sports industry. I have to ask you first, Andrea, regarding the start of your career in the sports and media business. You started super young. You created Media Partners at the tender age of 25. And then later, just a few years later, I think when you were 28, so before your 30s, you founded MP Silva as well. The question has to be, why did you start a career as an entrepreneur rather than trying to get a job and then work your way up?
It was a series of circumstances. After university, I had the dream to work in the football industry, but I didn't have any relationship to facilitate that introduction. And luckily, I found myself an opportunity to start in Media Partners. At the time was at the moment is named Infront in Italy, but at the time was Media Partners. And I started really from the scratch when the company was starting the internet and new media activity. So I remember that time in '99 when I started doing everything, like almost cleaning the office, and in the meantime sell internet rights and working with the software development manager and engineer on building websites in sports organization. So it was a very good learning phase of my career, and working with a lot of technical geeks helped me to analyze the process and the logic behind the process. So facilitate me a lot of other times afterwards. And after 2 years, I moved to China, and it was a big decision, very important decision, because living in Asia, in China and in Japan as well, accelerate my process and my growth in my career, and especially in terms of learning how to negotiate with different cultures, learning how to be humble and start to provide first services and help before to get trust in myself. And so it was a very good period of time that I had a lot of fun, but also I worked very hard to build my next future.
There's many questions I have for you. I will say also for all those watching and following this webinar, you can participate in this conversation by submitting your questions as well on the chat tab. We've also got some poll questions. We've got a couple, and we've already launched the first one, and it's live. So if you want to participate in that poll question, we'll also talk to Andrea about the one that's live now. When you started your career, Andrea, and you talked about the fact that you took risks in moving out to China, who was supporting you during this time as far as the career path you wanted to take? Was there anybody who was inspiring you at the time?
Not really. I think it was a little bit of brave attitude as a young and a lot of ambition that I had. And I think I remember the first time I went to China, I was really amazed by the fact that in the night I was seeing people building, working in construction, building skyscraper at like 1 or 2 or 3 a.m. in the night. So I remember after 3 days when I went back to Milan, I told myself, I need to find a way to come back and live here because that's what's happening. And this gave a sign of how I am. So I get excited and I have a lot of ambition, and I still carry on with that after many years. So I think it's very important for everyone to follow their passion and be driven by ambition of what you want to become and what you want to be in life. Not necessarily about economical result, but it can be applied in many other fields as far as you have passion for what you do.
I'm sure you learned a lot in a short amount of time, because you were following your own path and you were out there on the crest of the wave of your initial career strides. What would be the best advice that you would have for someone trying to start their path on their own?
Yeah, for me, I think it's the young generation need to try to be brave, take decision. Well, I see a lot of top manager around me that they're always struggling to take decision, take responsibility. No, and even at big level, at top level, and big companies. So I really would like to advise to the people, the manager, they are starting their career or they have ambition to grow, to don't be scared to take decision. They can start with smaller decision and grow over the time, the scale of or the importance of decision. But it's important to take the responsibility of something and show responsible. And then even if this brings to a mistake, doesn't matter. You can always learn and correct yourself for the next in the next experience. So I would suggest to be brave and sometimes also be creative and change the rules. Think a little bit out of the box.
Yeah, I guess it was pretty tough to make it in the media rights negotiation industry when you were that young. How did you assert yourself? How did you learn and apply negotiation techniques?
I learned by doing a lot. And I remember like yesterday my first deal on baseball rights for Olympic qualifiers for Japan and Korea, and I paid like $1 million. At the time, for me, $1 million was a huge amount at that age. And when it was about 5 days to the deadline, the event was to the event date, and we haven't sold the rights yet, I was freaking out. I was not sleeping in the night, but I had to pretend to be calm, cool, and luckily then after a few days we signed the deal and we made some profit. So it was a difficult time, but actually it helped me also to balance my emotion. So this I see also in football is very helpful because thanks to my experience in trading of media rights, I managed to balance my emotion, to don't get very excited when things goes well and don't get too disappointed when things they go bad. So it's very important to have a balance.
Now, as an investor, because you invest in a variety of ventures, what's your approach overall in the market? How do you identify a good opportunity, and how do you?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, at E07 Ventures, what is the scope and what we are trying to show for the first time in Europe is to have an investment platform that create value, not only invest passively money into sports or media organization, but create value over the time. So this is something that in Europe never existed before. There are only a few examples in the US, and I think we are the only organization, investment platform in Europe that invest money in sports or media or technology content related businesses, and we also actively participate in the business growth, and we're bringing our management skills and not only the financial support. So this is a new model, I think, for Europe and in this field. And we are now, after 5 years, in the right phase that we can show the value that we have created across different businesses that we have launched, like 11 Sports, or that we invested and turned around, like Leeds United, or other smaller, like Wiso Sport or LOD in social media. So we have a bunch of companies. All the investments are characterized by the opportunity to create value in the companies.
How do you assess risk then? when you look at the opportunities that are presented to you?
Obviously, we analyze and we try to invest in opportunity where we know the field very well, and when we can create an ecosystem and link with the other businesses in the same group, so linked to Acer. So we have areas of business that they are really connected between different companies.
When you talk about the investments you make with Acer, what attracts you to these opportunities? And you talked about managing the emotional attachment that you could have to projects. How difficult is it looking at an opportunity and thinking, this is a great idea, emotionally it makes a lot of sense to me, and then maybe thinking from a business perspective, I can't attach myself to it?
So becoming a little bit older and wiser, I let the management around me to be critical and advise me, and I take more in consideration other people idea, especially the people around me. So it's often I'm driven by enthusiasm and excitement, but it's important that I counterbalance with people that show me always the other side of the medal, and then I find a compromise. And but when I believe in something, I go 100%. And even if I do mistake, then I will correct. And even it also happened in the past with 11 when we started, but I'm proud to say that after 5 years, 11 is now profitable. It still a young company, but in a difficult and competitive landscape, but it's growing and has opportunity to grow even more. And so this is exactly what happened when even we did some mistake, driven by enthusiasm at the beginning. We correct the strategy, we build a strong management, and now we are on the right track, and we have very clear vision where we are going. So it's the right way to approach the business.
When I have an opportunity to speak to some major investors, I always like to know how much they trust their gut and how much they trust the data. Is it difficult to manage that? And do you still go maybe sometimes on instinct?
Yeah, I go, but I used to do much more, especially in the rights business with MP Silva, because when you buy football media rights, you win if you pay more, and sometimes the data that don't justify that price, but your negotiation skill they need to deliver then, and so you need to use the gods. And now I think the business are different. What we are doing with 11, with Live Now, with Leeds, I think the marketing and the data are very important to drive our strategy and build our future.
Look, Andrea, I wanted to bring up the first poll question because I think it's quite tied into what we're discussing at the moment regarding investment. And the poll question is, if you had unlimited funds for one venture, how would you invest right now? The options are sports technology, consumer data, esports, a new live platform, and purchase all key sports rights, or buy a football club. And the funny thing is that you're involved in a lot of these ventures.
Yeah, I think of those
options,
opportunity you mentioned, I have already a football club.
Yeah,
I'm launching a new live platform in live events, including sports, entertainment, and music.
Yeah.
Called Live Now, that will be launched officially in September. And we have already started investing in sports technology with a company called Sports Data Lab. So I would invest in consumer data, not because I'm not interested in sports, but because in sports, either you are, I think, a publisher or an event organizer, or you are a platform like Twitch, or you have a team. So I will invest in consumer data, but I'm sure also we will look at other sports opportunity, especially around Leeds United and 11 Sports, to do something with the sports.
You mentioned Leeds, and you're doing something completely new. When you started that project, I imagine it was something out of the box for you. Obviously, you're very passionate about football. Obviously, you're very passionate about business, but football is a completely different business. What are the key learnings that you've taken in the last 3 years since starting that?
Firstly, I'm very honored and proud to be Leeds United owner and chairman, because originally when I started to look at football investment, I was looking more as a businessman to invest in a medium club, maybe in Serie A or a French League on and develop players and sell players. That was my idea of how to enter in football. Then I got this opportunity to invest in Leeds United, and I had to invest financially much more than what I would have invested in first division across Spain, Italy, or Europe, because we already invested 100 million in Leeds United. For second division club is a huge investment, but I think I will never regret $1 what I've done, because it's a fantastic club. It's very unique. We have the best supporters, and it's a club with a history, legacy, and brand well known everywhere. So to make it and reach the Premier League with this club will be better than anything I could ever imagine. So I will be very, very happy if that day will arrive one day. So it's very emotional for me, this topic, but sometimes I try also to look at this as a business, and obviously we invest a lot knowing that the club in Premier League could have a much higher revenue stream. It also will open a new cycle. I think for myself, I will start to work more concretely with my time in Leeds, only in Premier League. At the moment, I just watch football, but I can use and leverage ACL Ventures activities and network and my own network if the club is in Premier League.
I wanted to bring in a couple of questions from our audience that I think are quite interesting. The first one: where do you see the future of broadcasting? Will clubs and leagues start to retain their own rights and launch their own OTT platforms more and more?
Depends. At the end, this decision are led by the clubs. The clubs need money guaranteed, so they are not keen to take risk in the market, because they need guarantee to pay the players, to pay the cost. So it's very difficult to challenge and change the distribution model in football rather than other platform. So either someone like a media company will change the model of distribution, or some finance private equity fund will co-invest and join venture with leagues to change the model. But I personally believe that the distribution model of live sports has to be changed, and it's still not matching the opportunity, the technology, and the digitalization and social media are giving. So in my opinion, there is much more demand for football than before, but the rights are stagnant or declining at the moment, because there is a discrepancy between the demand and the way the content are distributed in terms of pricing, in terms of technology, in terms of platform. So if private equity or financial worlds can invest in football and change this distribution, taking some risk, this will benefit all the ecosystem, in my opinion, and the fans, because they will have access to content, not only obliged to pay a subscription every month. We will enlarge and democratize the offer of football.
It's interesting you say that regarding technology and the way that football is broadcast, for example, because I have heard from various people in the industry that if you look at the way football is broadcast in the last 10 years, very little has changed. Maybe there's one more camera here, one more camera there. Obviously now we're looking at streams on 4K or HD, and 10 years ago we weren't, but the interaction level of fans when they watch a football game pretty much the same, right, as if it was 10 years ago.
I mean, why I'll give you an example. Why a fan in Indonesia, a Juventus fan in Indonesia or in Australia could not buy directly a game with a micropayment from Ronaldo Instagram account? Why not? It will be very easy to do with the technology. So at the end, the company and the league that will change disrupt the distribution model, I think we get a benefit, because at the moment sports, and especially like football, is still for a little elite, for few people that can afford to pay a subscription fee every month that normally goes between $25 to $50 a month or more. So if we should differentiate the offer and the pricing by different market, maybe democratization of the football will also increase the volume of revenue.
Another question from one of our viewers, Andrea. What is your feeling about football in the United States? And what do you feel about the women's game worldwide? And of course, there's the context of the next World Cup after Qatar being in the United States. So starting perhaps with that first part of the question regarding football in the United States, and if it can actually break into a top 3 or a top 4 sport there.
My personal opinion was also shared last year with the commission of MLS. I told him that, in my opinion, MLS could be could have the biggest potential growth in terms of football market, soccer market in the world, because they have everything to succeed. They have a country where the facilities, sports facilities are amazing, impressive. They have the English language. They have cities that they are brands. Everyone knows cities like New York, San Francisco, Las Vegas, Seattle, Los Angeles. So everybody knows this name, is familiar. So in my opinion, the only thing they lack is the players. So if they can invest in importing the best talent from South America and Europe, from the under 23 talent, and build the attention on the players, then it's no brainer. For sure, the value of the league will go, and the interest of media will be higher, and they will pay more. Considering also America has a very growing curve on Hispanic population, so they have everything to succeed. So they just need to invest more in players, but not bringing players at the end of the career, like Zlatan or David Beckham, but bring 100 players that they are talent under 25 or under 23.
What about the women's game?
The women's, I think, is a fantastic trend, and very happy to see the success of the World Cup in France last time, and it will continue to go. I think it was a good tipping point, the last World Cup, and I think the interest is there, and is right. It's the right thing to happen, and it's good to see the trend is positive.
Now, Andrea, I was a journalist for about 20 years. Then I worked in another corporate job at UEFA for 4 years, and I've been an entrepreneur for about 2. I have to be honest with you that one of the biggest challenges I have is time management and prioritizing projects and clients. Someone like yourself that's been an entrepreneur for a considerable amount of time, how do you manage all of your different projects? How do you arrange your schedule?
It's one of my issues too. It's one
because we're Southern Europeans, maybe.
It's one of my issues too, because sometimes I'm very accessible, because at the end of the day I like to be available, and but sometimes it's too much, and so I have a lot of people sucking my energy and trying to get in touch, and so I need to, unfortunately, even sometimes I don't like, but I need to be selective and try to manage my time and my priority. I think this period of COVID and isolation helped me a lot to refocus, and I think it was something that's very important for me to understand how I can work much better with the team, with my management, online with the video calls, and so I will definitely change my lifestyle in business for sure. So of course, I will be happy to be back in meetings, and already I'm doing, but it will not be like before. It will be much less meeting physically, more selection, and focus on the big priority. At this moment, my priority are Live Now and Leeds United.
Now, when you talk about the pandemic and the effect that it had on your day-to-day life, I know normally you travel a lot. How did your day-to-day management of your workload and the meetings you had, how did that work for you, considering the drastic change of life that you had from someone who was spending a lot of time on planes going from one city to the next?
It was, as I said, it was a great opportunity to give more time to my management. And they've never been so happy to share project and information with me. And I think this helped the entire organization. And I think we should not change at all. We don't have to go back as something like before. We need to keep this communication level with me. And it's very important, because obviously the leadership affect everyone else. So yeah, I see a lot of things has been done in these 3 months. that normally would have taken much longer time, because myself, I was more available. So I need to continue that.
What was the best thing that happened to you during this pandemic, which obviously...
the best thing was the first 5 weeks I was in South Africa, and I share my day between time with my son and working in the afternoon, and fitness and sports for myself. So I could have really a great quality of life with everything I need. Work, my son, and some time for myself. These last only 5 weeks. And then when I was in Milan, I started to work a bit more. But it's okay.
What was the toughest part of the pandemic for you in the sports industry overall?
For me, it was very sad in the first weeks to see how many people suffer and they died in my country, but everywhere in the world, and see the footage on TV of people struggling and physically and don't even have the opportunity to say goodbye to the people you love. It's very tough, and I think that was affecting me a lot. On the sports side, I didn't think about football or sports for a long time, until a couple of weeks ago when we were close to come back to play. And now actually I'm thinking a lot to football, obviously.
Well, there's a perfect question actually here from another one of our viewers. And I think it's quite a good one, because I dream of maybe being in your position and managing a football club one day. How do you deal with the unpredictability and stress of running a football club?
Look, the other day was funny. We played Luton.
Yeah.
So few minutes before the game, I was having an interview saying that how much I feel much more relaxed compared to last year. And then the last 5 minutes of the game that we were attacking and we couldn't score, I was walking like an idiot around the stadium, like by myself. So this is, I think, answer the question.
I can't imagine.
You can control.
Yeah. Going back to the business perspective, Andrea, and the way that it has been affected by the fact that everything stopped for 2-3 months. All sporting activity, it's pretty much unprecedented. We've never seen it before in our lifetimes, and for decades, maybe never, we've seen something like this happen, where there's no sports on TV, there's no sporting activity anywhere. What impact can this have on people's connection to sports, and then reconnecting again now that at least the action on the pitch is returning to normal?
Of course, in the time of full lockdown and no sports on TV, we had all the opportunity to do more activities, and fitness from home, I think, became quite popular to train from home. And it's a new trend, and this, I think, is very positive. The moment the football is back, it was a great enjoyment and entertainment for everyone, like watching sports every time. But I think now sports has also the responsibility and the duty to take back people together, and sport will be very important to show how it's good to be together and hug each other, celebrate a goal together, and what sports can do with emotion in the real time, in real life. Nothing else can do it. So it will be a very important platform to reconnect people after this lockdown, because I think many people has got afraid and is still in fear and worry about the circumstances. So sports will be very important to facilitate the reconnection.
You talk about connection, and the only way fans have been able to connect really now that matches have returned is to do so on digital platforms, because they can't go to the stadiums. They can't get together in restaurants or bars to watch it. So talk to me about the importance of the digital platforms to connect these fans, the growth in numbers on viewership on OTT platforms and rights holder platforms. How did you see that behavior changing, and do you think that it will continue after fans go back into the stadiums?
It's good, it's positive. We have the opportunity to get in touch and create with technology a bridge between the event and the players and the club, federal leagues with the fans. This is very important. But it's obviously, like, whoever has been in a stadium especially in England, where the atmosphere is fantastic, understand the difference. So I think as soon as it will be possible, the stadium will be full again.
I mean, we hope that happens as soon as possible.
Yeah, I hope that this transition will be gradually done soon, because I don't think it's necessary to close down completely the stadium. I mean, there's no danger if you manage to have 1/3 of the people in the stadium or half of the people. I think with the right adjustment and precaution, I think it's possible to have people soon at the stadium, hopefully.
We were talking about more people watching sports on TV, on digital platforms. I'd like to bring up the second poll question here for the latter part of this webinar. And the question is, what impact do you think the global pandemic will have on the value of live rights for broadcasters? Make them more valuable, less valuable, or?
No, obviously impacted a lot this season, and it's normal that because the number of games that was planned to do it in 3 or 4 months has been now rearranged over a much shorter period. So obviously there is a negative impact for media platform and broadcaster, and this has to be taken into account by league and federation. So there will be a deflection of rights value for this season. If the life go back to normal, I think then gradually next season everything should be back to normal.
But do you think it'll affect the value of the rights themselves when the next cycles are negotiated?
No, in some cases, use maybe like an excuse. I think there is a general decline and stagnant situation for football and normally sports rights in any case. And I think it's not because of the lack of demand, but actually the demand, in my opinion, is increasing. Mm-hmm. But because of as I said before, the distribution is not is still on one way, and pay TV, traditional pay TV, and that's it. So there is no competition. There are much more platforms, and nobody is able to pay higher price for exclusivity. So maybe we should reconsider if the right way is to sell exclusivity or not.
I'm going to move over to a couple more questions from our viewers. One of them about the launch of 11 Sports in the UK. A question on whether that was a mistake and what are the plans in that market going forward.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Pedro. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah. Regarding 11 Sports in the UK,
yeah.
Do you think it was a mistake to launch there, and what are the plans to move forward? In that
it wasn't a mistake. There is a project that I follow my instinct, and I was convinced that the right commercial strategy and a good proposition for BT and Sky would have provided to all platforms all the content and cheaper for them, and enable both customers to get the main international football. I was thinking about sure to succeed. By reality, it was impossible, because even I would offer for free this content, they would never taken, and they would just to see me bleeding on the floor. No, at the end, it is a market that is, when there is a too big player and they control, it's very difficult to enter. Unfortunately, I've done twice the same mistake, same in Singapore and same in UK, challenging a market that there is a kind of duopoly controlling the rights. And it was a big mistake for the second time. I was convinced that the commercial proposition would have been so good to be accepted. I was wrong, and I paid a high price, but luckily we're still on our legs. We are still standing strong, and we are ready to expand again in new countries, new territories. So the company is going well, and we learn from that mistake.
Another question on 11 Sports. You've led the way, but with Sky, BT, Twitch, and Amazon Prime launching Watch Together features, do you see the future in live sports streaming being inherently social and interaction-based? What's coming next? Further Twitchification of broadcasts, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to share a game, share a live experience with your friends, like you are in a pub, even using technology when you are, especially nowadays that we have so many friends everywhere in the world spread around. it's a great opportunity to create community around the live games and live experience in sports. The next, I think, would be a closer engagement between the live events and who is in the game and the fans, hopefully.
How do you see that?
I mean, with creating live feed on social media and creating a link between social media of the club and the fans during the live could be the next stage. It's technically possible. It's about want that.
Okay. Now that is an element of disruption, and I wanted to ask you about, considering your experience and the passion you have for innovation, what innovations are you most excited about in the sports and media industry right now?
Well, no, for me, what I really want to disrupt is, as I said already 3 times in this interview, is the distribution. So I imagine the possibility for everyone to watch a single game anytime he wants without access to piracy, with a micropayment or paying in the phone bill, or access a game from the social account of his favorite players or his favorite teams. So I think the technology can change completely the distribution and facilitate the payment process. And you need to watch a football game in the same as like you buying an ice cream. So for me, that's my goal now, and that's, I think, what we should all try to change.
An interesting question from another viewer, Andrea, regarding the Portuguese League.
Sorry, just to finish this, because don't forget, a big amount of money is not going to the right pocket in the league, federation, and players, because it's taken by mafia, by piracy, basically. There are billions of dollars in piracy in sports, particularly football. So the way to, I think, to reduce that is to make it easier to access to a game. And cheaper.
One question regarding the Portuguese League. It's the only league in developed Europe that does not sell its broadcasting rights in a centralized model. How big of a constraint is this current model for the future growth of the Portuguese League and its brand?
I think there are talks now. I mean, I heard there are talks for after 2026, the league could be centralized. I hope it will happen, because it's better, it's easier, and the league together can have hopefully a better value.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, being Portuguese and coming back to Portugal after a long time, I do see a need for that, for the league, for the clubs to work together rather than against each other, because
stabilize the league as organization is better for the football locally, for sure.
As we start to wrap up into the final phase of this interview, Andrea, I would like to ask you, if you were going to start over as an investor now, would you invest in the same markets and in the same products you have as you did before? So where do you think are the biggest opportunities now? And you mentioned in the beginning of the interview that you obviously are investing in a lot of different areas.
In the last 5 years, I invested in a lot in football media. I think 11 was an investment that started in a period where OTT and digital was not ready yet. So it started as a traditional, and now we are converging in a digital. So because of the timing, I was a bit penalized. So now I would have done differently, but we are going in a transformation phase in the next 5 years. So at the end, we turn around to be good in any case. I would maybe have invested in esports, in a team earlier, in maybe American team, but it was difficult to understand which one. It's very difficult because on which one you bet is very complicated. So, and what else? I would have invested in data, and I think we should do. I think sports generally, overall as ecosystem, is behind other industry in terms of analytics, and especially consumer analytics. So it's something that we might invest in the future.
Out of all the projects that you've developed in your career, which ones are you most proud of so far?
The next one, like now.
But do you ever stop and look back and think, this was amazing?
Obviously, what I've done with
to do?
Silva was amazing, but it was an unfinished business. When I've been taken away a baby that I nurtured, I developed, I care of, I loved, and I built from the scratch, from zero to over 100 employees and 21 offices and a turnover around 900 million with 72 partnerships, which I deal mostly with, like Premier League, FIFA, UEFA, La Liga, Bundesliga, NBA, Formula One, and so on. So to finish that earlier than what I wanted, it was hard to take because at the end we had some different visions. So I stepped down as chief executive, but I think the company had a big potential, could have a big potential to change and still be alive and still be very strong, changing the strategy, changing the focus from media rights trading also to IP ownership, content distribution, marketing, CRM, so many other activities that the rights holder would need, and we were in the right place to provide. So that's the regret, but I'll also say that I'm very proud of what I built with MPC. In 7 years, we built with Ricardo, we built a company that became one of the third biggest media agency in the world in only 7 years, and sold the valuation of $1 billion. So I think I need to be proud of that for sure.
What's the best advice anybody ever gave you?
Hopefully the next big proud thing will be in 4 weeks, finger crossed. We're not talking about it.
Yeah.
No, the big advice I had, I've been told many times to listen more, and finally now I do. I do sometimes, and I don't remember one particularly, but many. I listen to the people around me, even if I don't look like, but I listen to them.
And the words of wisdom that you have for young entrepreneurs?
As I said before, to believe in yourself, be brave, and consistency. Sometimes also this is something I learned on myself because with the age, with the time, because I always want everything now. And in business, we need to be patient, we need to adjust. Particularly me coming from MPC, where it's the business very fast of trading rights, changing to become an entrepreneur that builds value over the time, like E07 or Leeds United. It takes time and energy, so I can't do it so quickly like other things.
And finally, when you look at all the innovation that is happening in the sports industry, and let's focus on football specifically, what is one message that you would like to leave the industry here today as far as what it needs to do to be less conservative in the way that it deals with its content and more disruptive?
Good question. It's very complicated because sometimes the league operates on behalf of the clubs, and the clubs need the safety. So, in my opinion, what is happening now, and I've seen for a long time, and finally is happening, it could be a great opportunity to join with private equity and financial institution to bring more investment and professionalism and management to help the league to develop in the next phase, so that the league can take more risk and not depend only on the TV money and secure TV money, but disintermediate and change and disrupt the model.
Okay. Andrea, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you on this season finale of this Talking Sports series.
Thank you. Still, you do many things now, but you're still a good interviewer.
Thank you. If you say so, I take your word for it. It's been a fantastic series talking about some of the most important topics around the sports industry. Talking Sports will launch a new series, so stay tuned to your 11 Sports channels to find out more information on that. I'd also like to thank everybody who participated in this session, who sent in questions, and who also had an opportunity to follow the other webinar sessions throughout this season. So, Andrea, one more time, thank you very much. Good luck on the season conclusion for Leeds United. Hopefully it'll have
thumbs up,
a celebratory ending, and hope to speak with you and see you again soon. Hope everybody stays safe. And from my side, I'll sign off as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pedro.